March in Connecticut is a bit hit or miss as far as rail fanning goes. Sometimes it's beautiful clear skies and the first of the warmer spring temperatures, and other times it's raining, muddy, or freezing cold. Still, despite the ever-changing conditions, I still managed to catch a good number of trains on the NECR's Palmer Sub this month. So in this monthly review of the action on the line, we still have some pretty cool clips to cover, including one of 2 heritage units on the same train. Our first sighting of NECR's Train 608 this month is of the train running southbound in the morning. Snow from a recent storm is still very visible today, although it's rapidly melting. I've set up to film the train at Depot Road in Mansfield, Connecticut, just a few miles north of Willimantic, where the train will stop and do some switching. Soon I can hear 608's horn in a nearby crossing, and then the crossing bell activates and 608 can be heard inbound. Today's train is led by NECR 2168, a GP38-2, with one of NECR's newly acquired C40-8 units trailing. Both are a fairly common sight on this line. While I did chase this train southbound, that's a story for another day. I'll have a video on that adventure coming soon, but since this is just a summary of the action we've seen over the month, let's move on to the next train. Our next sighting of 608 was later in the week, as it ran back north around dusk. Since this was early March and prior to daylight savings, the sun had almost set by the time I had set up for a shot of the train coming around the curve into Stafford Springs. I was late getting to the tracks after hearing the train leave Willimantic, and so to make sure I didn't miss the train, I headed a little further north than normal to Stafford. Here the tracks run through a pair of tight curves into downtown Stafford Springs, paralleling the Willimantic River. I set up to catch the train as it came around the first of these curves, and soon the gates at the Route 32 crossing lowered and 608 came around the bend. Leading the train was NECR 3015, a special interest unit painted by Genesee in Wyoming, the NECR's parent company, to honor veterans and service members. It's seen frequent use on the line lately, but it's always nice to get a good shot of it like this. 608 headed further north up to Palmer, Massachusetts, where it spends the night. The next Monday, I was back trackside, hoping to catch the train at one of my favorite locations, the Eagleville Preserve in Mansfield, Connecticut. Unfortunately, I discovered upon arrival that I'd forgotten my camera, but I was still able to get a shot of the train on my phone. .608 was running slow as it approached the Willimantic Yard a few miles south of here. While the train's leading engine was a fairly common unit painted in Genesee and Wyoming's corporate scheme, the trailing unit was once again NECR 3015. It seems that this engine had been assigned to this train since it kept on showing up throughout the month. On my next trip to the Eagleville Dam a few weeks later, I had better luck and remembered to pack my camera. While I was still hoping to film 608, I had a hunch that today's train would be a little more unique than normal. A few days earlier, another local rail fan had posted a YouTube video showing both NECR and P&W's special interest units on 608 heading south on the same train, an extremely rare sight. Knowing that engines typically stay on this train for a few days before being rotated, I was hopeful that both engines would still be on the train today. Soon I could hear the rumble of the engines, and train 608 arrived at Eagleville. Sure enough, both special interest units were on the one train. Since these are the only special interest units owned by either of these railroads, seeing them at the same time on the same train on the same railroad is extremely rare and something that I never thought I would see. Unfortunately, this would also be the only time I would see them together, as the next day the P&W engine was returned to its home railroad, leaving only 3015 in service on the NECR line. My final sighting of 608 for the month happened a week later. I had chased the train into Willimantic, and after filming them switching in town, set up for a shot of them leaving the yard under the famous Frog Bridge, a local landmark. I've released a full video on this adventure. I'll throw a link up in the corner if anyone wants to check it out. After idling in place for a few minutes, 608 pulled forward from under the bridge. The engine stopped here to let the conductor on board and then continued out of town. The two engines in this train were a pair we'd seen all month, NECR 3039 in its old Rail America paint, and NECR 3015 in its Honoring Veterans and Service Members scheme. That sums up this month's review of the action on NECR's Palmer subdivision. It's been a pretty eventful month, and although the month started off cold and dark, it's been nice to be moving into spring and warmer weather. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving me a like to let me know that you enjoyed the video, and maybe even subscribe to help the channel grow and make sure you don't miss the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.